it has a bobblehead. I have an affinity for oddball RCs, specifically RC tricycles. And today I've got the Xrider Flamingo, which is a new RC tricycle. Well, not newly released, but new to me. This again, Xrider Flamingo, and this is actually the more updated version. They did make a couple of changes, it looks like, and this one now has metal gears in the diff, which seemed to previously be an issue. But it looks like they've updated that, and the rest of this thing, pretty impressive. And I want to go over a few of the details today before we take it out and hit some pavement and some dirt with this thing to see exactly how this runs. Now, this is modeled after a full-size vehicle that has been modified to look very similar to this. And you've probably seen the video of the full-size one ripping around the rally tracks because it's pretty impressive. It looks like something out of a Pixar movie, but let's go over the RC that we have here. Now, again, the biggest point about this is it's a tricycle. It's got independent rear suspension and a single motorcycle style front fork on it. The body on this is actually hard plastic, kind of an injection molded hard body. It's three separate pieces, the front piece, the top, and a rear section. It's got an injection molded cage, which the plastic actually feels pretty good. It's nice and stiff, but it's got just enough give to feel like it's going to hold up pretty well. It's got a simulated motor in the rear for scale details and a rear wing for style. Underneath of that rear wing, there's a little exhaust hanging back there. The overall appearance of this is very scale. They molded the driver figure. They put in the bobblehead, which has to be my favorite feature. And I think all RCs should have that feature. It's just too funny. I think it looks good. It's got a motocross style helmet and a, Wild Willy-esque driver on the inside there. Now, there's this metal roll bar that runs all the way around the chassis, and that's because this is a three-wheeler, so it will have a tendency to want to roll over that way, but the roll bar seems like it'll do a pretty good job of catching it. I've done some simple running on pavement already, and I've already seen myself riding on that roll bar just a little bit. Now, powering this vehicle is a 370 brushed motor, and then the ESC is a 2-in-1, so it's the ESC as well as the radio receiver. The radio itself is just a very basic, 2-channel, fairly cheap radio, but for what it is, it's going to get the job done. I think that I could see myself putting in a proper radio and ESC in the future, but for something out of the box, this is a pretty inexpensive vehicle. And if you're looking for something just kind of fun and out there, it's just right in that right area that you're paying enough to get some decent quality. You get, a true aluminum chassis pan. The shocks look constructed of decent enough quality. Everything about this thing has just enough put into it to make it the quality that you're comfortable buying if you like nicer RC cars, but you don't want to spend $300+ on something that you don't know how often you're going to drive. This thing is reasonably priced, and for exactly what you get, I'm pretty impressed. The servo is an actual 3-pin servo. A lot of times on these cheaper RC cars, you'll get servos that have a proprietary or 4-pin style wire, things like that, where you can't just swap it out for a standard servo that you may see. This one, not the case. Everything in there is going to be able to be replaceable and upgradable with something that's, of a little higher quality if down the road you want to increase the performance. The rear suspension on this car is very soft. It's got a lot of roll to it. There is a sway bar mount on the back side of the diff case, and there's some positions open on those rear A-arms where you could mount that. So that is something that I could see this thing needing if you really wanted to crank the performance of it up, because right now it's got a lot of body roll in the corners, but that does kind of add to the cool style of this thing leaning all over the place. And I'm actually really excited to get it out in the dirt and see how it does. One thing that does concern me a little bit in the dirt is that this does have an extremely, almost comically small front wheel. Just super, super tiny. It's a knobby front tire, which matches the knobby style of the rear tires, as well as the full-size version of this car does run on dirt and rally courses. Although if you do have this thing off-road, I can see that front wheel not wanting to roll over larger imperfections in the surface nearly as well as a significantly larger front wheel would do. So down the road, if I really am enjoying this, that is one modification I may look at. The battery on this vehicle is concealed underneath of this body, actually directly behind the front forks there. Now it comes with an 800 milliamp 6-cell nickel metal hydride battery, so nothing fancy in that regard. That is something that I will likely change out. I'll probably go to a 2S LiPo. Now this ESC is not going to be made for LiPo, so it's not going to have a low voltage cutoff most likely. That's something to definitely pay attention to. If you're not familiar with LiPos, maybe it's not the best thing to upgrade to. If you're comfortable with running a LiPo without a low voltage cutoff built into the ESC, go for it. But definitely take it with a bit more caution. If you need to, put a low voltage alarm in at the same time. I'll link to the batteries that I'm gonna try running, and I'll link to a low voltage alarm if you've never seen one of those before. These shocks have aluminum shock caps with a plastic shock eyelet. Overall, it doesn't feel like they've got any oil in them at all. So there is no dampening really involved in these. Maybe these shocks would hold oil, not 100% sure. We could try it, maybe add a pretty heavy weight oil to try and slow this thing down a little bit, but I'm gonna run it just completely stock first. The front forks on this have a good bit of travel. They are a little bit sticky. It feels like even if they can't hold oil, some grease on the components may help smooth out the action a little bit. That may be something that I do regardless also. This thing comes ready to run as you would probably expect from something like this. Very basic radio, everything that you see here. The packaging on the vehicle is actually pretty cool. I got this from Banggood, and the box doesn't come in great shape after its journey, but Xrider's packaging is actually pretty cool. It's this weird clamshell design. The vehicle was nicely displayed in there. While I'm not much for doing unboxings and reading what's on the box, I do appreciate some cool packaging. So good on them for that. We're not gonna go over what is listed on the box, but it was kind of fun to note the actual packaging style. It does come with, a typical USB charger for that battery. It's got like almost like a Tamiya plug style battery end on it. I actually clipped off the battery charging end so that I could turn it into a plug to go on my regular charger for the meantime, at least. I'll probably swap to like an EC30 here in the future. Also, there is a few other little spare parts, another pinion, a couple of rubber bands, as that's what holds the battery in, and then some preload spacers for the shocks. I will note that these vehicles used to come with spare diff gears. This does not come with that any longer because they did upgrade to metal gears in the diff, and that is noted right here on the box. Also in the box, you've got a sticker sheet with a number of Xrider logos, some random numbers that you can display on the cab itself if you're after that. And then also there's an instruction manual. Now, while it gives you instructions on how to get to the battery, some basic RTR level instructions like you would probably expect, it also on there has a really nice exploded view of all the different components, but kind of broken down into nice subsections that are fairly easy to go through and with really good details. So if there's anything in there that you're interested in getting into, these are actually pretty decent layouts. Everything with individual part numbers, and it looks like you're able to actually buy replacement parts for almost anything on the vehicle. I've never owned anything else from Xrider before, but after seeing this model, I think it's something that I might look into. There was another pamphlet in there with a number of their other vehicles, which are all motorcycles. So they've got one tricycle and everything else is motorcycles, but I do own several RC motorcycles, so adding another one to the collection from them might be in my future. They do have a cafe racer coming out that I'm pretty interested in. It says coming soon. I've seen the details on their website, but can't find it for sale anywhere yet. Definitely gonna watch out for that myself. But at this point, let's get this thing outside. We're gonna find some pavement, some dirt, and see what it'll do. 800 milliamps does not last that long, but it was still a lot of fun. Bigger front wheel. I think that's the one thing that would really help that thing in the dirt. On the pavement, it's awesome. It's great. Could use a little bit bigger front wheel though when you're in the dirt, and a bigger battery. I mean, nickel metal packs, they just don't last that long. I think for me personally, I'm gonna go to LiPo, and if I continue to have this much fun, then I'll throw in a new ESC that has the capabilities of running low voltage cutoff in my LiPos, and just overall, I could see this being a really fun platform. If you're interested in one, I've linked to where I got it in the description below. You can check that out. I highly recommend it for the amount of fun that you get to have for the $1. So if you're into weird RCs like I am, pick one up. But that's gonna do it for this one. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.